Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. This is really cool today. It's the first time I've actually had two guests on at the same time, and I got the Dynamic Fit Pros, Eric and Chris Martinez, on. How you guys doing?
David, we are blessed, man. Everything is great. It's crazy that it's already March 1st. It just
I
shows
know.
how fast time goes, and it's just like sometimes you have to just stop and smell the roses, man. You really do. So, but everything's great.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, when I woke up this morning and saw March 1st, it just something hits different when you go from February to March 1st. I don't know, it's a whole different mindset. It's like spring is almost here.
Yeah.
I live up where it's cold, so, I'm really looking forward to a little bit of warm weather. But you guys
Yeah.
are down in Dallas, right?
Yeah,
Dallas.
yeah, and we've been having
How,
some weird weather. Like there really hasn't been a winter, so
yeah.
I'm not complaining. But then it's like we faced the heat. It's just we had a brutal summer last year, so I'm like, ugh. So
I did my, I was a combat medic in the Army, and I did my
Mhm.
medic training down at Fort Sam in San
Yeah.
Antonio. And the last 2 weeks of training, we actually spend out in the field. Like we're camping, we're doing medic drills out there. Like we're not back at base. And it just happened to be over my birthday, which is in November. So I turned 25 in medic training down in San Antonio. And listen, I had known about Texas. I'd only been like once when I was smaller and stuff. I did not know it could snow in Texas. And so this was November 19th. My birthday is November 19th. And this was, I mean, geez, this would have been 2009.
hmm
And it was cold. I was okay with the cold. And then I started seeing snow. And I'm like, wait a second. I didn't think Texas did this. I didn't think this was part of Texas. Now, you guys are
hmm
even farther north, so you guys get snow a little bit
Yeah.
more regularly and
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's it.
very bipolar.
Very bipolar. Yeah.
hmm
I love the Dallas Fort Worth area. I tried to get my wife to look at houses there when we were moving from Florida, and she said no. So
Ah, man, that would have been cool. You guys are more
That
than
would have.
welcome. Like, man, it's really cool out here. It's booming. It's a good
yeah.
place to be.
Well, I come down and maybe we'll go catch a Cowboys game or something sometime.
100%, man.
Absolutely. Go
Well,
Niners, though.
I'm so glad you guys got to come on. For those of you guys that don't know, Chris and Eric, they are coaches. They build coaching businesses, help client or help coaches build coaching businesses. We've kind of worked indirectly with each other through BioLane. They kind of helped us out a little bit with that. But I've known about you guys for years. We've kind of corresponded a little bit, but I don't really know a whole lot about your background other than kind of what you guys have talked about. So I wanted to dig in a little bit because I know you guys kind of got a unique situation being twins, first of all, which is absolutely fascinating to me. I know we were talking off camera, so let's leave some of that conversation for on the podcast. But
Cool.
how did you guys grow up and get into fitness? Like, what was your entry into the fitness world? Was it parents? Was it sports? Was it friends? How did you guys get into that?
Yeah, great question, man. And I'll definitely just like share just everything with the listeners because I know this can really just hit home with someone that's going through this and that has had like some losses in their family. So if I fast forward back to, man, we were 17 years old. It was 3 nights before Christmas. We got a knock on the door about 2 in the morning from a California Highway Patrol officer. And that's generally not a good thing, at
Yeah.
that hour. So I remember, like waking up and I was like, I thought I was dreaming. And I went to the front door and I saw my mom just screaming, like just at the top of her lungs. And they had told her that, her husband passed away, our father. So he was a correctional officer at San Quentin State Prison. So growing up, he instilled a lot of discipline, work ethic. He was a great father. He was. So we learned a lot from him. He got us into sports. It was all about education. So we look back at it now, we're like, man, like he was a hell of a guy. So, we lost him. We lost him in a car accident, and that's it. He fell asleep. I fell asleep behind the wheel, and then 3 months later, man, like my mom lost her mom due to cancer. So she had lost her husband of 30 plus years. Then she loses her mother. So she turned to alcohol and antidepressant pills. So for us, we felt like we lost like our dad, our grandma, and then half of our mom because
Right.
we didn't recognize her. And 17 years old, I mean, we saw a lot. We saw a lot of things. We
Yeah.
went through a lot of trauma, a lot of dark times. And Chris and I, we were lost. Our older brother just kind of went his own separate way. So he wasn't there. So all we had was each other. And, we turned to alcohol. We got in trouble with the law. We got arrested several times. We were just very angry and rebellious, and we didn't have God in our life. Right. So it was tough, man. We went through a dark season, but what really got us out of that, David, was going to the gym. Just, hitting the iron, taking our anger out, and then just really getting fascinated with like body compositional changes. Then we were doing our undergraduate work at Sonoma State University, just kind of bullshitting, man, just going through it, just like, hey, this is what our dad wanted us to do to finish school, so we'll honor that. But I remember Chris was flipping through a muscular development magazine, so we'll take it way back, with those magazines, which were great, and we saw a column by Dr. Lane Norton in there, and this guy was jacked, like he had a really good like column on there. He was like, he had a PhD in nutrition sciences. We're like, man, who is this guy? So
he's natural.
Natural.
I heard he never really went anywhere.
That's funny.
That's good.
Yeah. So we just emailed him, man. We're like, you know what? Maybe this is a sign. Like let's just email him for coaching services and see what this whole online thing is. And we did. And then after that, man, we just never looked back. Like he took us under his wing for about 5 years. Just we got mentored by him. We bugged the hell out of him. Like we were just students. We soaked up everything, and then we saw what he was doing, and we're like, okay, he's got a good thing going, but I was like, there's some things that he's missing, and there's two of us here to where we can fill these gaps. So we just took imperfect action. We built our first online coaching business, Dynamic Duo Training, back in 2010. So after that, man, we ran that business for about 8 years, did extremely well, helped a lot of people, but we got burnt out. We were just like, you know what? We don't want to do coaching anymore with fitness. I see a big gap with health and fitness coaches that need help building a business, and we have the blueprint, and we've done this before. So we pivoted to that. This is our business that we're doing now, Dynamic Fit Pros, and that's kind of the story, what got us into all of it.
Man, I can relate a little bit to the bugging the hell out of Lane and all that stuff. I've been doing that for about 7 years myself now. No, that's really cool though. Taking it back to, I'm going to be 40 this year. How old are you guys?
38.
38. Okay, so we're in the same era. And I tell people all the time, like the same thing about the magazines. Like, I came from the go to the shelf and find the bodybuilding magazine era. So before any of this stuff came out, and I'm sure like me, you guys made your fair share of mistakes when it came to lifting and nutrition over the years and stuff. But that's really cool to hear, dating back to the magazine era and finding Lane and everything. It's kind of weird to think back to that late 90s, early 2000s era and see how far the industry has come. And, I didn't know you guys actually started that first business in 2010. I thought it was, I know you guys have had multiple businesses, but I thought for some reason that was a lot sooner. So that actually puts into perspective now really how long you guys have been at this. And for only being 38, you guys had that entrepreneurial mindset from an early age.
Exactly.
And kind of, I don't want to harp on the hurt of losing your dad, but obviously, the pain and the frustration and the anger that came from that, I think that's probably what propelled you into being so successful later on. Like, you guys were looking for a harness for all of that, and you kind of found, I don't want to call Wayne a father figure for you guys, but you found that male role model that you
100%.
Guys needed in order to keep going. So I think that's just so cool that, Lane helped me a lot in my own personal journey. Lane's helped you guys quite a bit in your own personal journey. Did you guys ever get into competing, or was it more just for your own physique development?
Yeah. I want to unpack that too, like David, like what you were talking about, because I think it's so important for the listeners to understand this. So I truly feel, man, like that was our father that day looking over us, like when I was flipping over that magazine for a reason, you know what I mean? And I remember I told Lane that story, and I just thanked him. Like, I was like, man, I can never thank you enough, because that is what was really like the catalyst that changed everything for us. You're spot on. We needed that mentor. We needed that light. So that's 100% spot on. The second thing, though, is what the loss of our father did was it gave Eric and I a sense of urgency to where it's unmatchable. It's unmatchable sometimes, man. It really is. It's hard to explain to people. It's hard to relate to people that don't have the same urgency, to believe it or not. But we look at every day as it's our last day here. And it's because we lost him, like in a blink of an eye. We didn't get to say goodbye to him. And for somebody to lose their life like that and then not maximize literally the God-given potential that you have.
Right.
You know, I truly feel we all have a covenant with God, and it's like if you are not maximizing that God-given potential, you're letting him down. You're letting a lot of people down. So for us, it's like if we don't maximize every single damn day, I feel like I'm failing God. I feel like I'm failing my dad. So that just brings a whole different kind of like level of urgency. That's why we always tell people, man, like dig into like the past, dig into something that's going to fire you up, light you up, get in the zone, because that urgency has to be there, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a health and fitness coach.
That perspective is, it kind of takes me back to when I was about to become a father a couple years ago. Like, everybody's like, your life's going to change, you don't know how it's going to change, and you just don't know that feeling until you actually go through it. Well, in that case, I mean, we hope nobody has to go through the loss of a parent like that, especially in that tragic way. But there's really just two ways that you can come out of that. And yeah, you guys may have stumbled a little bit right after, like anybody would, right? But to be honest, you were 17 years old too. I mean, I remember what I was like when I was 17. Like, we're not always the brightest people in the whole world at that point, right? But people have choices to make, right? And you guys, whether it was your father's divine intervention, right, like looking down at you over that magazine and flipping through that with you, or it was God pushing you towards the lane, like whatever it was, you guys still had a decision to make, and you guys chose growth over destruction. And I'm really happy that you guys are where you're at right now, because how many times do we see people in that situation go the other way? Right? They end up in jail or dead themselves later on. So I think that's a really inspirational part of your guys' story. I mean, yeah, we're going to get into the coaching stuff and the business and all of that, and how you guys help people lose weight and build businesses and do all that. But that right there, I think, is your guys' strength and power, is your experience, your back history and stuff like that. I want to talk a little bit about, like, when did God enter the picture for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I would say a little over 3 years ago when we made the move from California to here, Dallas. Yeah. And it's crazy how it works, man, because, we grew up Catholic, and, our father did the best he could with what he knew, and he was a great leader, but he wasn't a great leader in that aspect to leading, with godly principles and putting God first. Yeah. But, yeah, and it just like after he passed away, Chris and I were just like, we were angry at God. We were like, man, what the heck? Like, why would you take such a great person? So we became victims. We had the victim mentality, and we were just trying to do life on our own. We were very just rebellious, all the above. So God was not in the picture. Until I remember, like, I had 2 DUIs, man. Like, I got 2 DUIs from the span of 17 years old to 27. And one time I had to do like 360 hours of community service, and I remember I was too prideful to go do it somewhere in public. So I was like, where else can I do this? And I don't know if it was God or what, but there was a church, a Christian church right down the street that opened up for me to go do my community service there, and I would go there every single day while prepping for a bodybuilding show. This is what's crazy. And I remember I had so much time to think there and just talk to God, as like the other guys too, like the pastors would talk to me and be like, man, like, why are you here? Like, you shouldn't be in this situation. And after that, we went to Los Angeles, did all that stuff, and then, man, like the pandemic hit, and that was it. We just came here. Like, for some reason, like, we landed right here in Frisco, Texas, and 5 minutes away from the church that we're plugged into now. And 2 years ago, man, we got baptized, like, gave our life to Christ. It's just been a blessing, just doing things His way. And whew, I wish I would have found Him a long time ago, man. But it's never too late. But yeah, that's kind of the story with that.
That's powerful, man. I was baptized. It'll be 3 years ago this June. So
nice.
Right on. Like, I grew up, off and on going to church. I kind of got, actually, when I joined the military, I kind of got back into it for quite a while, regularly going to church, and, one of my battle buddies was, a pretty strong Christian, so I had a good influence there, and then, life happens, you kind of fall out and everything, and, I was being deployed, and I was going all over the place, and I just kind of lost touch with it, and I actually, you talked about being 5 minutes from the church that you're plugged into now, so I met my wife, on Bumble, actually, the dating app. This is the first time I ever got on any sort of dating app, okay? I was totally against all of them. Never got on Tinder, none of that stuff. And she was like, I think the second or third person that I found that I swiped on. But she responded back, and met up and talked and stuff, and obviously led one thing to another. We're married, we have a kid right now, but she lived right across the street from a church. And actually, the first time I went to church with her, they were doing the groundbreaking for the new building they were putting up and stuff. And that meeting her, being connected into that church, is what kind of reconnected me with God. Not that I had ever lost, but I wasn't going to church regularly. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. And I mean, I can't miss a week now. I'm very upset when I have to miss a week, right? But it was in that church that I got baptized and just grew in my faith and stuff. And it's funny how, with the pandemic and you guys moving to Frisco and getting connected there, and then me with my wife and getting connected in the church, seeing God's hand in all that we do. And us not understanding why. You probably had no idea why really you were going to Frisco.
Heck no.
Right? I mean, it's Texas, it was free, it was open, things like that. I had no idea what route your life was going to go at that point. And I didn't either. And I think that's a really cool connection right there to pick up on and stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Texas is a magical place, man.
It is.
Honestly, I would have moved there in a second if my wife would have said, let's do it. But she wanted to be close to the family, which I completely understand. It's great. So, what was probably the biggest lesson that you took from the trouble you guys got into after your father's death? I mean, obviously, don't drink and drive. That's an obvious one.
Yeah.
But in terms of bigger life circumstances, what was the biggest lesson that you guys individually took? It may be the same, it may be different. So
yeah, I would say just wasted time, man. To be honest, I have my own kind of issue with time. I don't know if it's because of lost my father, and that's just kind of my traumatic experience I carry, but I look back and I'm like, man, if I didn't sit there and bullshit from 18 to 24 for so many years, I still got stuff done, went to college, got our, degree and all that stuff, but it was just a waste of time. Did not tap into creating more skill sets and really, really enhancing our mindset, breaking limiting beliefs, all that type of stuff, so I just look back and I'm like, if I had that time back, I mean, who knows where I'd be at now, So that's one thing I always look back on, not with regret, but, just for a lesson for somebody else, hey, time goes fast and, don't BS, man. You can have fun and some balance, quote unquote, but, just maximize the time to level up and skill set and break those beliefs, because there's so much untapped potential.
God, that's so good. That's so good. Develop urgency, right?
Yeah.
Never waste a moment. What about you?
Exactly. For me, man, it goes back to what one of our mentors said. He said that your greatest gift lies in your deepest wound. So it kind of backtracks to our wound was losing our father and just our family just crumbling. And then it's man, I felt even though I went through some trials and tribulations, and I regret some of the stuff I did, but it's it was for a reason. And it's what my pastor says too, sometimes you got to grow there before you go there. And maybe that was part of my growing and healing season, to go through that type of stuff. And then again, now I can turn that mess into my message and help all those other people that are going through certain things.
Oh, that's so powerful. That's awesome. Mess into message. I love that. I'm going to have to get a clip of that one, that's for sure. Okay, so we kind of got a good background of what drives you guys, what makes you the men that you are, the coaches that you are. So we talked about a little bit about, you guys had the first coaching business and stuff, and you kind of realized getting a little burnout on coaching, which somebody right here might be I want to get into coaching. I can never imagine being burnt out on coaching. I can tell you firsthand, yes, you do get a burnout once you start working with a lot of people. It doesn't mean you don't still care and want to keep doing what you're doing, right? But there is a sense of burnout there every now and then. So what was the gap that you guys noticed that you wanted to fill with coaching coaches?
I would say basically, man, it was a gap of just the business skills, basically, right? Because if you look at certification programs, they're great at what they do with the competency and stuff like that. But then it's when people get that certification, there's a huge gap, because they're oh shit, what do I do now? Or how do I actually apply these skills into building a business, or whether I want to do in-person coaching or a hybrid of online, whatever it is. So I feel the certifications failed, these health and fitness professionals. Universities failed them. I feel you can say the big pharma, man, medical cartel, medical matrix, they all failed them. They really did, because there's nothing there to bridge that gap. So that's where we hope to come in, man, and really fulfill that area there, because they need skill sets. They absolutely have to have skill sets. And also, too, another thing that really like pushes us, man, is like, I don't know if you know this, David, but malpractice is basically like the third leading cause of death. And with that, man, that just goes to tell you that we're just so ingrained in like being like, oh, the doctor is the one that knows how to fix things. Like, go to your doctor for nutrition advice, exercise advice, and it's such bullshit, because that's all we're ingrained to know. So it's like, man, people need health and fitness professionals like yourself, like BioLane's team, all those people we work with, because you guys are invested in like that specific expertise of like nutrition, exercise science, whatever it is, and that's what's going to help people out, man. So a lot of different reasons, like what we say, why we want to fill this gap,
Yeah, and I want to just like expand on what he said, because that was the true gap. It's like, man, when we got into building our first business, right? We went to go get our CPT. We got like our nutrition certification through ISSN. We got our ISSN diploma, like a master's degree in there. We got our CSCS. So we had all these like certifications, and we're like, cool, like, yeah, we're good. Like we feel competent. We're ready to rock and roll. But it's like, it was like crickets, because you're like stuck on an island. We're like, what do we do with this now? But thank God for having like BioLane and just like really modeling and seeing what he did in his business. That is what saved us. And then finally we went to go hire, business coaches and mentors to time collapse and learn those skill sets that we're not taught. So for me, I just see that gap, and I still see it till today. Like all the coaches that we work with, we've worked with over 800 coaches. So we've seen a lot, and we've experienced a lot, towards like a lot of them come to us and they're like, Chris and Eric, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, this is not taught from, I just got my certification. I'm just like, dude, like, it's very disappointing, what's going on with that.
Well, I shouldn't say, I was kind of taking on some clients for free here and there or whatever, but before I really, because we weren't, there was never a plan to have a team BioLane. Like, when I met up with Lane, like, I literally met him at USF through Bill Campbell. I mean, I'd been following him for years, and I mean, I had actually emailed him about 6 months prior to that, and just like, hey, man, you really saved my life from a lot of health issues I was going through, and I just want to say thank you. Probably never meet you in my life, which is really funny to think now. Yeah. He was the best man at my wedding, so. But I was like, I just want you to know. I just want you to know you have an impact, right? And then I volunteered for a whole year in the research lab with Campbell at USF before my class actually started. My class was starting the next fall. And Lane was coming in, and Campbell kind of knew that, I was followed him, and he helped me quite a bit. So he introduced us, and I basically told him, I was like, listen, I'm the guy that shot you that email about 6 months ago. I was like, listen, can I buy you a beer, take you out for coffee, something like that? I just want to pick your brain a little bit, because like, this is the direction I want to go. And he's like, why don't you come over to the house tomorrow and we'll talk a little bit and stuff. And so, okay.
That's awesome.
So I did, and they were looking for an intern and someone to help them with stuff, and in return help teach me about coaching and the business of coaching, which is kind of what I wanted to tie into what you were talking about, Chris, is that I had I was getting my master's degree. I was a combat medic in the Army. I had my ACSM. I had my CrossFit certification. I had all this stuff. But that's not enough, because coaching is so much more than just, developing a training program and putting macros down for someone, right? That's not coaching. You can teach a monkey to do that stuff. Coaching is the interpersonal relationships, right? Like the understanding how to communicate with people, understanding how to run a business, because this is a business. I could never have imagined 7 years ago to where I would be right now. I mean, yes, I would have imagined it because I had the belief in myself, but I wouldn't have known the systems to put in place. I wouldn't have known how to develop a business, and that's what I learned through Lane, on top of a lot of other stuff, which sounds like you guys did as well. And then you guys hired outside consultants. You guys took the necessary steps in order to become better at business. But all of that doesn't matter unless you actually put it into practice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You guys, I'm sure, have had failures along the way with building your business. What would you guys say is one of the bigger ones that was the most impactful for you guys turning your business into what it is now?
That's a good question.
Biggest failure.
That's a hard one. Like a specific moment. Like what I'll say, like David, honestly, like I'll be 100% real. It's just like I feel like at this point, like basically from us pivoting from 2018 to now, 2024, 5 full years of doing this with Dynamic Fit Pros, I feel like still like it's almost a disappointment, and I'm discouraged a lot instead of like overly excited and proud. I feel at this point we should have worked with like double the amount of people we've worked with. I feel like on our Zoom calls there should be hundreds of health and fitness coaches on there. So for me, I feel like some of it is a discouragement. I don't know if that's why it keeps me so fired up to keep bettering the program, keep pouring into our coaches, keep up my skills, right? Keep joining masterminds myself. I don't know. There's not one instance like where it was a failure, and like I don't think like it was that, but that's just being 100% real, man. Where it's just like I feel like Eric and I should.
No, and that gives a good insight into you guys as men too, right? Because like, yes, you can be happy with people you've helped, the coaches you've helped, and all that stuff, but you're not satisfied, right? And that's what's going to keep you guys growing. Because by no means should you guys be discouraged with what you guys have done, right? Like, as an outsider looking in, you guys have helped a lot of people and a lot of coaches, but I do understand that mindset of like, you're always analyzing what can I do better, or what can we do better, how do we get more, and stuff like that. And that's why I was just really interested to see if it was one big moment or just a bunch of little micro moments that have added up over the years. And I think it sounds like it's a bunch of little micro moments that have added up that just keeps driving you guys forward.
I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, because just really quick on that, I don't think that there's like we can look at it as failures, but it's like, to me, it was just like, it was lessons learned. That's all it really was. Like, we tested so many different things. Like, we are constantly investing in ourselves, because I truly believe like you are your own greatest investment, and you got to keep building those skills, man, and learning to level up. But it's like, did like things go wrong when we like spent some money? Like 100%, but it's like, it was all learning stuff to be like, okay, we'll never make that same mistake twice. And that's kind of just like the attitude you have to have as an entrepreneur and business owner.
That's great. And that's actually a really good transition to the question I had here that I want to talk to you guys about. Is what do you guys see as how am I trying to say this? What is one of the biggest things that you guys notice with your clients on why they are failing at growing their business? Like, is it a characteristic? Is it an X's and O's type of thing? Like, what is it that you guys see that makes online coaches fail?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at this first, Chris. The biggest thing is really just like they don't have confidence, certainty, and belief in themselves. And for the listeners, if there's coaches listening, like I really want you guys to write this down. Like it's conviction plus care equals conversions. And what I'm seeing here is, a lot of these coaches, man, their level of conviction, number one, in themselves, is just at an all-time low. And a lot of them have like their hope tank is empty, and when you lose hope, you end up hitting the quit button. That's what happens. So I'm seeing a lot of these coaches, again, like when they're starting off, they're coming out of certification programs, their level of conviction to actually sit there and put themselves out there, charge a high premium, deliver an awesome program is so low in themselves. And then once they have like a program, that conviction has to be at 110%, man, to where it's like you have such a badass program to help and serve people, to where it's like you have a moral obligation to go serve and get that in people's hands. Once you have that level of conviction, it's like you're off to the races, because your confidence, your certainty, and belief muscles are growing. You're exercising them every day, just like your muscles in the gym. So, and then if you genuinely care, you have integrity, man, and you want to help people, I mean, that's like the icing on the cake. So if your level of conviction plus care is like through the roof, and you're really bought into that, you'll convert more people. Like the conversions are going to come.
Because people, and this is, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know everything there is to know about nutrition and training. Like, yes, I have a master's and I've done this for a long time, but there's tons of people smarter than me out there. I'll be supposed to admit that, right? And I keep learning from them and trying to gain more knowledge. I mean, I've got access to amazing resources throughout the industry, not to mention Lane right at my fingertips. But I think one of my keys to success is that caring part. Like, I think that it comes through when I work with my clients. And I always tell people, like, because I'll do consultation calls with coaches that are trying to break into the industry, nowhere to the near extent that you guys do, right? But I'll tell them, listen, you got to know, first of all, you have to be empathetic, and you have to understand where they're coming from, where the client's coming from. and you have to know how to talk to that individual. So there's so much communication gap between really knowledgeable coaches with the X's and O's of nutrition and training, and then actually how to present that and relate to a client. And I think that there's a huge communication gap along with this conviction and caring that you guys are talking about. Now, with some of the coaches that you guys are talking about that you work with, I guess this is a two-part question. Do you think that they don't have the conviction because they haven't proven themselves yet, because they're new? And also, do you think that there's a big number of new coaches that are getting into the industry that just think it's going to be easy money and they can work from home and they don't really care? Like, that's where that conviction and care aspect comes in. So what are you guys seeing with the clients that you guys work with? And I'm by no means use any names, of course, but like, do you see issues with those two things in terms of like what I just mentioned?
Oh, 100%. It's like a mix of those both right there, David. So you're spot on. So this is another acronym that your listeners can write down. It's E plus C plus D, right? So the E is expertise. The expertise is going to be the number one differentiator that you have as a health and fitness coach over anybody, right? The expertise, like really getting people results, and the conviction, what Eric talked about, right? So if you have that, man, like if you have expertise and like you're competent with exercise science, nutrition, you can get people results, that's going to lead to the C, the confidence. The confidence, I feel, is like a huge thing, right? To really be confident to put themselves out there on social media, confident to sell, confident to create this offer, all this stuff. And if they have the expertise, the confidence, that leads to the D, man, the drive. And that's like the urgency, that's the drive, that's just continue to skill up, be better, right? And enhance their skill sets and do all that type of stuff. So it's really a combination of all those three things I've seen over these past 5 years.
Yeah, and let me just add to that really quick. Another thing too, it's limiting beliefs, David. Like, we all have them. We all have self-limiting beliefs, whether it's, fear of getting started, fear of failing, imposter syndrome, comparison syndrome. And here's the big one: a scarce money mindset, a poverty mindset. Yep. And this is, I'll be honest, man, a lot of coaches, like, we were like that too when we started off. It's like we had that broke mentality where it's like, we had ego and we're like, oh, we can do this on our own, we'll figure it out. A lot of coaches are like that. So if you have all those limiting beliefs, man, what do you think is going to happen? It's like you're like in quicksand. It's like pulling you down. And people don't understand. It's like you have to work on that stuff and peel back those layers. And in our program, we have a mindset mentor. Her name's Tara Dawn, and she is like the expert go-to mindset coach that helps these coaches develop like winning belief systems to peel back those layers. And that's why we have mind growth. We don't call it mindset because the mindset term is like, it's played out to me. It's like, it's a negative connotation to where it's like my mind is set in stone and it's not, I can't grow it. So we say, hey, no, let's do mind growth. I want you guys to expand your guys' mind. And that's a big one, man. It's like, whew, like most of these coaches are just, they're in their own way. They are.
I think that maybe not even just in coaching, just in life in general.
Absolutely.
Like, more times, it's not the external factors that are making you fail. It's the internal factors, right? That's so true. The amount of people that I deal with that I spend an exorbitant amount of time on just the mind frame type aspect of it. Compared to the nutrition and training aspect of it is just outrageous, right? I mean, you really do. You're a psychologist when you're working with these clients. Like, you have to be, because you're dealing literally with people's health first and foremost. And for a lot of people, there are so many childhood issues that they're having to overcome with food. I mean, with women in particular, like how their mom talked to them about food, and sports, and like things like gymnastics and cheerleading where they're always promoting weight loss and things like that. So there's a lot of psychological things to overcome, and that tends to be, for me, one of the more difficult things to try to help overcome with clients and stuff. Because one of my favorite things is when I'll do a consult with somebody, right, and they're like, I just don't know what to eat, I don't know what to do in the gym. I'm like, yes, you do. You know. You know. Like, you're telling me you don't know that you should be eating more fruits and vegetables and more whole foods, and not that it's horrible, but staying away from fast food a little bit more often and not smoking and drinking. You know what to do. You can't get out of your own way. That's the issue. And that all starts up here. Everything we do, everything we say, every movement we do and behavior all starts up here. And that's why coaching is an art form. but you also, like you said, you have to have that caring aspect of it and everything. And listen, it's just like everything in life. Some people aren't cut out for it.
Exactly.
Some people are, some people aren't. And you can really tell the coaches that thrive, because they would not thrive if they didn't have that caring, empathetic aspect of coaching with them, right?
Exactly.
Or coaching in them, I should say. So, okay, well, let's kind of turn the page on that. What do you think is one of the biggest attributes for a coach to stand out? Is it that caring? Is it that communication? Is it their social media presence? Like, what do you guys think it is from all the successful coaches you worked with? Is there a characteristic or one certain trait that is kind of universal between everyone?
Yeah, I would say, man, like the ones that stand out, aside from all that stuff we talked about, it's the coaches that aren't afraid to sell. You know, and that just that leads to more conversations. And the funny thing is, when people go online, you know, it's like they have this mirage kind of like idea of like, oh, I'm just going to throw up a website, and as soon as that happens, people are just going to come opt in and just hit me up, hire me, or click a button, I can sell like a bunch of stuff. And it's so delusional. Right. It's so delusional. It's like nobody wants to get on the phone, nobody wants to get on Zoom and like actually have that conversation, those uncomfortable conversations, and unpack, you know, clarifying uncomfortable questions for these prospects. So I feel like those people that are working on their sales skills, they're out there selling, man, and they're not even selling, they're serving. That's what they're doing. They're serving at the highest level because they have that high conviction they can help people out with their offer and their skill sets and their expertise. I see those as the ones that are like the outliers, where I know that those are the ones that are going to get to 5K months, 10K, like and beyond, like a lot faster than other people.
Yeah, and let's be real, man. Like people buy people buy coaches, not coaching. It's right. a P2P. It's a P2P business. It's people to people. So that's why I always tell my coaches, I'm like, you know, they say, oh, well, Eric, it's so saturated. You know, there's so many coaches out there. Why would they choose me? I'm like, because it's you. There's something unique and special about you, your story, the way you articulate your message. You have superpowers, and you know, maybe they can only hear your voice. And that's the thing, man. Once people understand that, they're like, okay, well, you know, obviously there's frameworks and there's strategies to like build an audience and build a business, but it's like, just be yourself, man. Like Chris said, serve, you know, talk about your story, just be real with people, connect with them.
I mean, there's people out there with less than 10,000 followers that are making 100K a year, right?
Exactly.
And there's people with 1 million followers that aren't making 100K a year.
Exactly.
Like it really doesn't matter. So, you know, Chris, you were talking about the selling, and I thought that was a really interesting to bring up. And one that over the years I had to learn also. Like, listen, I come from an entrepreneurial family. Both my mom and dad have their own businesses, and I like to sell. I like to talk to people. I like to do that stuff, right? Yeah. That's why I have a podcast here. But selling is a very uncomfortable thing for a lot of people.
Sure.
And so many times, and I've been guilty of this years ago in the past, you have one conversation with someone and it doesn't go super well and you just give up, right? How many, and this is for both you and Eric, you guys can answer, how many touch points on average do you think it takes to close somebody in a sale? Because very rarely does it get done just in one conversation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how many touch points? Because I think this is really important for the listeners, especially the ones that are thinking about getting into coaching. Mm-hmm. I think this is important for them to hear. Or the people that are looking for coaching that keep having coaches recontact them and they're getting annoyed, right?
Right.
How many touch points do you think it takes on average to close a client?
It's hard to say, man. There's a rule of thumb that we heard where it was 7 to 12 touch points, but I feel now, like since like COVID and just people's trust factor is like a lot lower now, right? So it's like you got to work harder than I think 7 to 12 touch points sometimes, but I don't know, sometimes there's an argument then to like, you know, say like, what is the mechanism, right, that you're actually using to actually buy these people trust? Because that's what it is, David, like with sales, it's trust, man. There's two things, like if they don't buy from you, it's because number one, they don't want the change bad enough, right? Or number two, it's the trust, and it's the trust in themselves to not do the work, or the trust in you as the coach because they don't know you enough or they don't trust your program that's going to get them the results. So the trust, and I feel like whatever the mechanism is to, you know, get those touch points with increasing the trust factor, whether that's like, you know, a pre-recorded, like, you know, webinar video, whether that's you run like a 4-day challenge and you're with them every single day for an hour coaching them, whether it's a consultation, you know, free call like that, it all kind of depends, you know, but there is a thing behind all the touch points behind it, micro commitments, you know, they need to take.
For sure.
Yeah, it's like it's true though. It's like that's why we're so big on like the follow-up game with our students in our programs. We're like, look, don't take it personal. If someone like does not get back to you, if they don't respond to something, it's like people are busy, people are distracted. Like you're not at the top of their mind, and again, you cannot take that personal. You're controllable. It's controllables versus uncontrollables. Your controllable is to again be persistent, sell like because you're serving, and again. That's it. Like you can't control the outcome of them like responding and them taking action. Like that's the best you can do. So it's like, yeah, follow up with them as many times until they tell you, hey, leave me the hell alone.
Right.
Yeah, there's one more thing I was going to say on this, like really quick, David. This could be super helpful for your listeners. Like visually, if you look like at a hierarchy of like the proximity for trust, right? Number one at that top of that hierarchy is in person. So if like you're in person at a gym doing sales, you're going to close the sale like pretty 99% because of that proximity so close to build the trust. The second one is that's why you got to get good on Zoom, because you have to be able to have that next kind of like proximity. That's Zoom instead of in person. The next one is phone calls, and then after that, it's pre-recorded videos like VSL, stuff like that. So if people understand that proximity of like increasing the trust, they'll do a lot better.
Well, and it's really ironic you brought that because that's exactly where I was going to go with this. Is that I think now with the ability to record videos and send them to people and things like that, I think that those touch points can be a lot shorter for people if you do get more personal like that, right? So what I mean by this is like a lot of people will communicate through Instagram DMs, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's a touch point, right? You can have conversations through that. I consider kind of each conversation a touch point. But that doesn't get them to know you. That doesn't get them to show how much you care. It takes 30 seconds to make a video using the person's name, saying, hey, I just really appreciate you reaching out. I'd love to set up a consultation so that we can have a more effective call with each other and I can learn a little bit more about you. Here's the link below. I'm going to send it. Shoot that video off to them. That right there is going to cut down probably 3 or 4 touch points that you need.
Yeah,
just make a quick little 30-second video, right?
Yeah.
And with me, I don't sign up a client until I talk to them first, like live on a Zoom or if they have to a phone call, right? But utilize technology to your advantage these days, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nope. I don't care if you're talking to the most famous, knowledgeable person in the world. If it's straight through text and DMs, it's never going to mean as much as a 30-second little video introducing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or listen, if you don't want to do video, a voice message, right?
There you go.
Send a voice message. So those things for all you coaches out there that are looking to build your business, that stuff adds up. It adds up real quick to a lot of clients, and then also client retention from there.
Yeah.
Like you can't just bring the clients on board and then lose all touch points with them. Like if you're only talking to them doing their check-in and stuff, then you're probably not going to have a high client retention rate. There's so many ways to set up automated messages to go out to kind of keep in touch with them. And we all have our phones, right? Most of the clients are on Instagram. That's probably how they found you in the first place. Like it takes nothing to take 30 minutes out of your day and just start sending messages or shoot a video or a voice message to them. That stuff is how Chris and Eric and I have built our businesses over the years. Now, of course, I didn't start off like that because that stuff wasn't available when I started off coaching.
Exactly.
But you adapt and you grow and take advantage of that stuff because, yes, I don't remember which one of you guys said it earlier about a saturated market, right? So a lot of people think it's a saturated market. And in reality, if you kind of look at our fitness industry, coaches, influencers stuff, if you really break it down, it's a small percentage of the population.
100%.
So you gotta imagine, I've got so many people in my family that don't know how to track macros, and I do this for a living. You gotta imagine this is not on everybody's radar all the time. And not to mention, there's always new people every year, right? There's always new people, and they're coming up and they're getting interested in this stuff. So don't think that it's a saturated market. You have to, Eric, I think you said this. People buy coaches, they don't buy coaching.
Exactly.
And you have to, that's why I always tell people that I talk to and I try to help out other coaches on the team is like, show your personal life as much as you feel comfortable.
Sure.
Right? Because people need to know that you're not just this robot coach on the internet just putting out content every day. They need to see that, okay, you have a real life. You know what it's like to coach somebody with kids because you have kids or you're married or you travel. Like show that stuff and show your personality.
Yeah.
those are the most successful coaches, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Agreed,
couldn't agree
man.
more, man.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so we could do a whole podcast like on the whole thing of like outreach and like DMs to people, because that's another reason why coaches are failing, is because they have this negative perception that they think that just because they're online, they post content, that people are supposed to magically come to their inbox and start conversating with them. It's like, no, that'll happen with time, with more expertise and experience, but we teach this in our program, and this is great for listeners. It's called the Daily 5. Every single day, you should do at least 5 outreach DMs to your perfect future client. You should know who that person is and how to go like seek them. But it's like, dude, just go like their picture, their video, and leave a genuine comment, and then send them a DM, and of a place of just like giving and just acknowledgement. Don't ask for anything, and then just see where that conversation goes. And if you do enough of those, man, you could be closing 1 to 2 people a week just off a system like that.
For sure.
If somebody follows you, you just sit there and be like, hey, thanks so much for the follow, appreciate it. What brings you into my world? Simple as that. Simple as that.
It takes, you can set aside 15 minutes in your schedule and just respond to DMs every single day, or just comments on your posts, like you said before. I mean, that goes a long way. People want to feel seen. They want to feel like they're not just throwing their money away, right? Yep. And then you also have to work on creating. So, and this is something I picked up from Alex Hormozy, which I think is just absolutely phenomenal. And he talks about selling Hawaii, don't sell the trip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so many times coaches will get on, and I've been guilty of it. Listen, and I've changed my way of doing it too, and I've seen tremendous health increase and stuff. But I was wanting people to feel so comfortable with the step-by-step of how we're going to do and get there and stuff. People don't care about that. I mean, obviously they want to know that you're not going to do something stupid and ruin their health, but people, they want to know what the end outcome is. Yep. They want to have something to look forward to. So sell Hawaii, don't sell the 8 to 10 hour plane trip it's going to take to get there. Right? They don't need to know what aisle they're sitting in, what kind of peanuts they're going to be sold along the way. They need to know that they're going to be able to get from here to Hawaii, and then that's what people have, because people are visual. We need to have that visualization. Because there's going to be hang-ups along the way. There's going to be roadblocks. You're inevitably, in building a business and going to school and changing your physique, whatever it is, they are necessary roadblocks in order to strengthen yourself and get better. So don't have to remind people of that. They know it's coming. Remind them of where they want to get to, and that's going to help tremendously. So,
100%.
I like to kind of end these. I want to be respectful of the time here and stuff. I like to kind of end these with what is either your favorite quote or the quote that has most affected your life, either professionally or personally.
You want to go first, big brother?
You could
I'll go first.
Oh, that's a good question. So Eric's the big
By
brother.
1 minute.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I am.
By how many minutes? How many?
1 minute.
1 minute.
I use it to my advantage, though, David.
I can see that. I would too. I would too.
I'll go first. So my favorite quote and it goes back to what we talked about, David, it was urgency. So it's from Ben Franklin, and basically it goes that most men die at age 25. We just don't bury them until they're 70. So with that, it doesn't just go for men, it goes for women too. So basically what that means is just too many people do not sit there after 25 or a certain age, continue to skill up, continue to want to win, continue to seek greatness, learn from other people. It says in the Bible and Proverbs to seek wise counsel. People aren't doing that stuff, what I mean? They kind of throw in the towel, So for me, again, it goes back to urgency, where it's just like, I'll be damned, man. I'm going to be a student, a learner, grow 1% better every single damn day until the day that, it's my time when the Lord says, So it just goes back to urgency and people BSing, wasting a bunch of time and not living up to their God-given potential.
In all fairness, there's a lot of things that people aren't doing that are in the Bible these days.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole other episode.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, that could be a whole new episode. But no, I like that one a lot, and that I've kind of had thoughts about that too. Because I mean, I went back for my master's. I was 33 when I went back for my master's. But of course, I mean, I was in the Army most of my 20s and stuff after college. I mean, I graduated college, worked for a little bit, then went into the Army. But I still wrestle with this like wasting of time, right? Like not that I regret, and it's obviously all gotten me to where I am today, but there's been many years in my 20s and early 30s that, man, I wish I would have heard that quote earlier in my life, not that I haven't ever been a driven person, but I was going through stuff health wise, mentality wise and things, and I sometimes think back of like, okay, where could I be right now? Not that I'm not happy with where I'm at, or I'm still growing, but like that quote right there, I think if someone's 18, 20, 22 and hears that, let that sink in, guys. There's 3 guys here that are approaching 40. Let that sink in, because damn, that 21 to 40 goes so fast,
man. Yeah,
so
it does.
So I love that quote, Chris. That's a great
thanks, man.
What about you, Eric?
So I got to top that one, huh?
It's not a competition, big brother. Right?
I'm just kidding, man. I'll go with the quote that my pastor said, man. I really just love it, and it's so true. He said that you don't get what you deserve in life; you get what you decide. And the way that happens is it's controlling your thinking, your being, and your doing. And what that really is, man, is every day we can control our thoughts, our attitudes, and actions. And if we can control those things and literally win like 5 out of 7 days doing that, we'll have what we want in life, and we'll make tremendous progress going forward, and we'll have that winning mentality. We'll stack those wins, So that's my go-to with that.
That's so good. You guys in the comment section below, put whose quote was better. We're gonna have it.
Right. Team Eric.
Just put Eric, Team Eric, or Team Chris. All right. But that makes sense to me why that quote would be so powerful for you, because you guys literally had to make that decision, right? You guys could have kept going down a bad path, and you guys could have. And listen, I don't think anybody would have been surprised. Not meaning because of who you guys are today, but just the circumstances.
Sure.
Right? Not that it's okay or acceptable, but people would probably assume that that's what most people would do, especially 2 17-year-old boys who lost the male figure in their life. Not to mention, you talked about your older brother kind of went off on his own stuff. You guys had to grow up real quick.
Yeah.
And so, that quote coming from you means a whole lot more than somebody else who just heard it and said it and didn't actually have to go through that struggle. So
100%, man. And I just really quick on that, man. I just see it, and I'm so like strong about that, man, because it's like I feel it and I see it, David. We live in a very soft and weak society, man. Like people are they play the victim role so much, and I'm like, man, you have so much. There's so much resources, and it's like there is absolutely no excuse. Like opportunities are created, not given, man. And it's like every day you have a decision to just go out there and just do something with your life, man, and just like untap that greatness in you. But I'm telling you, people just make excuses. It's limiting beliefs. It's like they use their past trauma, like this and that. It's just entitlement. The list goes on.
You guys, obviously there's that famous saying or quote, whatever you want to say, hard times make good men, good men create
it's good.
weak, or good times create weak men, blah, blah, blah. You guys all know that. What do you, because I agree with you. We live in a very soft society. I actually had a real hard time transitioning out of the Army. And now society wasn't as bad as it is now when I transitioned out back in 2013. But I had a real hard time with laziness and with entitlement. And it's only gotten worse the last decade plus, right? What do you guys think is the cause of that? And I'm not asking you guys to get super political or anything. You guys can get as political as you want. I think I can tell you and I are on the same wavelength. But like deeper than that, like what do you think it is that's causing people to play the victim mentality more?
If I had to take a stab at
it, is it? Let me ask you this: is it social media and just the fame or the attention that comes from it? Is it policies? Is it like, what is it in your guys' opinion?
I think a lot of it is like social media, and then it also is upbringing, and I think it's like not being aware of like the system. We can call it the matrix, whatever. That it's like we're painted a picture to where you go to school and you get a piece of paper, and then you're going to have a great job, and you're going to climb up the corporate ladder, and you're not going to have to get all these skill sets and work so hard, man. And that's the thing, is like it's almost like people feel like they're lied to, but it's our own fault for like buying into the bullshit, right? And not doing the work to get better and surrounding ourselves around other people. So I think it's that, and I think it's on social media where they see people's highlights and don't even know what these people's lives are like. Truly, even though they have millions of followers, they have money, whatever, all the accolades, and people are like, you know what, it's my turn. You know, when is my turn? When am I going to get to do it with the most like minimal effort to put into it, or the most least skills that they need to be able to accomplish whatever it is. So I think it's a combination of things like that, man.
Yeah, I just think it's what Chris said, upbringing, man. I think it's weak men, and if it all starts in that household of that man being the leader. If that man can't lead himself, he can't lead his family, nor will he be able to lead anybody else. So again, I see it just firsthand, man, towards like, I would love to raise my future kids with like, biblical principles. And I know Chris is doing that, which is awesome. And that's something we didn't see growing up. But still, that doesn't mean that it's like we didn't see, discipline, hard work ethic, focus, and obedience in our household. And again, it's a lot of these kids nowadays, these like younger generations, 20-year-olds, it's like, man, they don't want to work. They don't understand. And it's like, dude, what else are you going to do? It's like, we were put on this earth. God made us here to sit there and work. Like, he gave us hands. He gave us like our health to sit there and work. It's like, what do you want to do, man? Just sit back on your phone and just like make money. It's just like, it's ridiculous.
It is. And I've got a guest on next week. He's actually, he is a friend. He went to my old church in Tampa, or south of Tampa, when we used to live down there. And we're actually having a whole discussion on, like, what does it mean to actually be a biblical man in today's society?
That's awesome.
So I think you guys will probably like that conversation. I can see that conversation getting really, really deep and going really well. But I agree with you. I mean, and like fatherless homes, right?
Yes.
Now, I mean, you guys were lucky in the sense that you were pretty much almost out of the house, right? But if this would have happened when you guys were 5, what would your life look like?
Exactly.
Would you have been as strong as you were? Now, yes, of course, you guys stumbled a little bit, but like, you guys had a long time to develop and learn from him in his own way, right? He wasn't a super biblical man, but like, you learned from his strength and you learned from his discipline and stuff. And it's there's such an incentivized system out there to keep the fathers out of the home.
Oh yeah.
And that's creating the weak men. And obviously, there's that passage that talks about how a wife should submit to her husband, right? Well, what people, and I think that's kind of taken things a whole different way in this society, because when they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. But people always leave out the part before that, where it says the man must submit to his wife too.
Exactly.
And it's that partnership, right? And without that partnership, man, wife, God, that Holy Trinity, right? It's not the Holy Trinity, but that triangle, right?
Yep.
Things are bound to go haywire. They're bound to be weakened. And I agree with you, Chris, about social media. It's just like, you're getting praised for being a victim when you're not really a victim. You don't know what victimhood is.
Yeah.
Someone used your wrong pronoun. That's not victimhood. Okay, try going to war. Try losing your father at 17 tragically. Try all this other stuff. The stuff your mother. We didn't get into the stuff your mother went through, right?
Exactly.
Like, people have been coddled
man.
for so long.
That's a good word.
And I can't remember which one you guys said that, but you were absolutely right. It's our fault. It's the generation before us. It's like, everybody's made things easier. And I was actually just listening to a clip. Rogan had this person. Hold on, I've got it right here. Rogan had this person on. I haven't listened to the whole episode. I just listened to a little clip of it, but it was Abigail Schreier. I think it was the last episode that he had on. And the clip was talking about how people ruminate on their problems too much these days. And everybody wants to talk about it, and everyone wants to go to therapy. And listen, I'm a proponent of therapy to an extent.
Yeah.
But like, when you keep concentrating on that and you don't actually get to live in your life, that's why people in the past, they just sucked it up, Buttercup, right? They sucked it up, shook it off, and went on. And we didn't see levels of depression like we do now. We don't see levels of weakness like we do now. And so it's just an interesting dynamic and stuff.
It is.
Obviously dealing with clients, we see that a lot with clients too. And so it's just something important to keep in mind. But
100%.
I was just interested on your guys' take on it. But,
I love it, man.
Guys, this was awesome. Like I said, we could probably do 2 or 3 more hours of this, but I will definitely have you guys back on at some point. Tell people where they can find you guys individually and as your organization, your team.
Yeah, 100%, man. And just thank you again, David, for having us on. Appreciate you, man. So, yeah, the listeners can find us. I would say just go to Instagram at Chris and Eric Martinez, Facebook as well, too. And then check out our podcast, Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. Lots of good stuff there. But, yeah, I would say those are the main places.
Yep. And I'll link all their stuff below, guys, so you guys will be able to check that out. And Chris, congratulations again.
Thanks, David.
New Papa.
Appreciate that, man.
Did I just see you, what, 7 months?
7 months,
8 months?
yeah. And he just crawled a week ago, man.
No
So
problem,
crazy.
man. It goes by
Crazy.
fast. Be sure to, soak it all up, man. It goes by fast. I mean, we got pictures that pop up randomly from like even just a year ago, and it's like, that's not the same.
Crazy.
Crazy. But Eric, Chris, they're great guys. So happy to catch up with you guys. And guys, definitely go check them out. Go check out their podcast and their link below. And appreciate your time.
Right on, David.
Thanks
Thanks
so
so
much,
much,
man.
man.
Yep.